MPO Policy Board meeting for July 14th, 2022. And the first item is to conduct a roll call vote. Mayor Dennis?
Present.
David Byers?
Yes.
Larry Leverance?
Present.
Perry Brown?
Present.
Okay. Peter Bunder?
Here.
Cindy Murray?
Dang it.
Ben Murray? Julie, I'm sorry, both of those are no's for today. Shane Spears. Okay, we have a quorum. All right, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the June 7th, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, we've got a motion and a second. We'll conduct a roll call vote on the minutes. John Dennis.
Aye.
David Byers.
Aye.
Larry Leverance.
Aye.
Perry Brown.
Aye.
Peter Bunder.
Dang.
Aye.
Cindy Murray.
I can hear you.
Shane Spears.
Aye.
Perry, we can hear you. If you can't hear us, we can hear you.
Okay, my screen just shows I have no audio.
Well, it's actually working. Because we can the next item on the agenda is the resolution T22-09, resolution to amend the 2022-2026 Transportation Improvement Program to allocate funds for city buses, and Doug will be handling that.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have two amendments today. The first one was request by City Bus, and this is to specifically program special FTA funds, what we call Section 5339 funds, and these are a competitive nationwide funds, and City Bus did submit an application for them, and they were approved in the amount of $1,005,777. The federal funds, along with local match, will be used to purchase two fixed route CNG propulsion buses. They are specifically listed in the staff report. The two that are being replaced are 2011 Gillig hybrids. The City Bus Board of Directors did authorize this amendment on June 28th. The Technical Transportation Committee did review the amendment and approve it, or recommended its approval on June 15th, and APC staff recommends approval. Are there any questions or comments?
All right, Doug, thank you very much for that presentation. That sounds like a good deal. So I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution T22-09.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second, Cindy.
Cindy Murray, second. All right, we'll conduct a roll call vote. John Dennis.
Aye.
David Byers.
Aye.
Larry Leverance.
Aye.
Perry Brown. Okay, you're off now, Perry, but I can see your thumbs up.
Thumb up.
Peter Bunder.
Aye.
Cindy Murray.
Aye.
The motion carries. Okay. They say they've got my computer working again. We're going to take a break for about 45 seconds while I walk back to my office so Cindy can come back to her chair here.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution T22-10, an amendment to a resolution to amend the 2022-2026 TIP and reallocate some funds, and Doug will be handling that one also.
Good afternoon again. There are actually two parts to this TIP amendment request. The first part deals with our fiscal year 2022 allocation. Even though the fiscal year is over, we did receive recently an update to our 2022 funding from NDOT, the final amount, and surprisingly, we received an additional $316,999. Normally, we would not be able to allocate and obligate these funds, but these come from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And since we received this additional information recently, we have up till September 30th to obligate the funds. We put together a list, as you see on the screen, of 5 options and presented them to the Technical Transportation Committee. We reviewed all 5, and the one we recommended was A, is to allocate the full amount to the Morehouse Road right-of-way project, specifically that phase, and we did that to repay the amount that the county loaned us from that project to fully fund the construction of the Sagamore Parkway Trail project. So that is what we are asking the policy board to approve, is to allocate the balance to the Morehouse Road project, specifically the right-of-way phase. NDOT at the same time also released new fiscal year 2023 through 2026 funding targets for our area, and over the period we will be receiving an additional $5.1 million. Great news. For fiscal year 2023, we will be receiving an additional 1.1 basically million dollars. So we decided that instead of looking at all of the fiscal years, just to look at only 2023, we will be developing a new TIP starting this October. So in keeping that in mind, we figured since the fiscal year actually has started, we will just focus on 2023 funds. On the presentation, we did put in the staff report what the current allocation of funds are between all of the different projects, and there has been some changes. For one, South Street right-of-way phase is being delayed due to initial NEPA or environmental review. The second is preliminary engineering for Soldiers Home Road. Roughly additional $30,000 in federal funds will be needed. And then, of course, additional federal funds, no surprise, Yeager Road, because it's moving into the construction phase. We looked at the additional funds and put together several scenarios and presented them to the Technical Transportation Committee. And with their recommendation in the staff report on page 3, we came up with a recommended allocation between the Yeager Road project, the Soldiers Home Road project, the McCutcheon Safety project. This time we will also have to include the repayment of federal funds that we borrowed from the Northwest Indiana Regional Plan Commission. If you remember, we had to borrow an additional $300,000 to fully fund the Sagamore Parkway Trail. So the table in the staff report is what we are recommending. It includes the additional funding for the Soldiers Home Road project for preliminary engineering. Of course, there will be additional funding for Yeager Road. And when we were developing this during the Technical Transportation Committee meeting, it was discussed to split the STBG part of this funds between right-of-way and construction. But since then, the county was able to save some money in the right-of-way phase and asked that we allocate the full amount to the construction phase. There is one caveat in approving this recommended allocation in that, once again, we have two construction projects, so we do not have enough federal funds to fully fund both projects. We will be seeking $1.216633 million in federal funds from another MPO. I think we can successfully do this, and since we are early in the fiscal year and we will be needing these funds later in the year, I think we have a very good possibility of doing that. In looking back, when we put the original allocation together in the TIP, we were borrowing a pinch more, over $1.5 million. So by doing this, we will have enough funds to fully fund the Yeager Road project, the McCutcheon Ped Safety project, to add the additional funds needed for the Soldiers Home Road phase, phase one, the preliminary engineering, and then also repay what we have borrowed to the Northwest Indiana Regional Plan Commission. So the Technical Transportation Committee once again approved or recommended this allocation, and we are asking for your approval of this. And of course, if you have any comments or questions, please ask them. And if there are any questions or comments from the public, we'd be more than glad to answer those as well. So at this time, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask.
Hey, Doug, this is Tony.
Yes.
It really doesn't make any difference, and looks like you've done a good job, and I might have the terminology mixed up, but on the South 9th Street project, you said it was being delayed because of a environmental review?
That is correct. The environmental process is taking longer than what was expected, and that was basically due to the additional requirements that the state historic preservation officer was looking at regarding one of the subdivisions. I know recently that was addressed and taken care of, but
yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure that you were aware of, that we did get notification that that neighborhood is not allowed for, does not fit the criteria to apply for historic preservation, so we don't have to deal with that anymore. So that piece is behind us. I just wanted to make sure you were aware that had gotten resolved.
Yes, it was. Thank you for bringing it up. I had a conversation with Jeremy, and we discussed whether to bring it back or in, and at this time we were both agreed to leave it out, at least right now.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions for Doug? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve Resolution T22-10 as presented.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Let me find it here. John Dennis.
Aye.
David Byers.
Aye.
Larry Leverance.
Aye.
Looks like Perry Brown has left. So we'll go down to Peter Bunder.
Aye.
Cindy Murray.
Aye.
And Shane Spears.
Aye.
All right, the motion is approved. Thank you, everyone. Doug, thank you for your hard work on getting that all straightened out. The next item on the agenda is the MPO update. And the first item under that category is new funds from Reconnecting Communities Pilot Program Fund. So Doug's going to be explaining that.
Yes, with the approval and adoption of the new Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, a lot of new programs were added into that, two specifically, Safe Streets and Roads for All, or what is being called SS4R funds, almost sounds like an airplane. And then the other specific one we'll be looking at or presenting are Reconnecting Community Pilot Program funds. The Safe Streets for Roads for All is open for applications, and that will be closing here in September on the 15th. The main purpose of these funds are addressing safety, specifically reducing or eliminating roadway fatalities and serious injuries. So in order to get these funds, there are two ways that projects can be funded. The first is to develop an action plan, and that includes a number of different bullet points. One of them is looking at the crashes and comparing them to projects and actually developing projects that can be done. There are also adoptions of policies and rules. And then the other one, or grants that can be funded, are actually projects. And those projects, of course, must be identified in the action plan. Now, realizing that this is a new pot of money, not too many MPOs or any cities or towns are going to have an action plan. There is a self-certification worksheet that is provided, and you can go through that and figure out whether the current documents that have been done actually qualify for funding, and we have done that in our office. We looked at, you remember the bike, the pedestrian bike walk Greater Lafayette safety plan. We also have the bicycle and pedestrian crash report. We also have the fatality and serious injury report. And we also have the new 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And in looking at these documents that we already have in house and that are approved, it appears that they all qualify to be under the action plan. So, with that being said, it is possible that we could actually apply for funds to then put together a supplemental action plan that actually is one that addresses all of this in one document, or actually go through and put together an implementation grant. And the implementation grant, those projects need to be listed in the plan, the bike walk safety plan, or in the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And I know we've heard that there is interest in doing so. If we would like to pursue that, our office would be more than glad to be the one to take charge of that, so we can put in different requests from the different LPAs or cities or towns. The second funding pot that I'd like to mention here is Reconnecting Communities, the pilot program. And these are really neat federal funds, is that over the history of developing a transportation system, especially in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, there were a lot of road projects that basically went through various communities, especially disadvantaged communities. And these federal funds are specifically targeting those projects and how to knit those communities back together. So likewise, they need to be identified in a plan, and if there is an identification of disadvantaged communities, such as those that were cut through, whether they are communities that are in poverty or in minorities, these funds can be used to somehow stitch back together and improve the connection between the two. So again, if there is any interest in those funds, and I think we probably could make the case for that, we'd have to look at our minority and poverty maps. We would be more than welcome to lead the application process on that. And again, these are two new funding categories, or two new funds from the Transportation Act that was passed and approved last year. Questions or comments?
All right, well, this is certainly new. Does anybody have any thoughts on this one, since it's something different? Are you comfortable asking the area plan to, I don't know if they need to bring forth any documentation or just simply verbal vote today to have them continue to pursue, trying to be that collection agency and help with those grants or stuff? Anybody have any thoughts?
This is Peter Bunder. Do you have any idea where those funds might be spent in Tippecanoe County?
Which one in particular? The safety?
The Reuniting Communities Fund.
The locations that I think might be a possibility, but we'll have to look more detail in terms of, especially thinking of the west side, in terms of making a connection across Sagamore Parkway in terms of pedestrian and bicycle traffic. In Lafayette, I'm not sure at this time. When I was thinking of those, my first thought was to connect Stockwell and Clarks Hill to Lafayette, specifically use those funds for the Big Four Trail, but unfortunately, when reading the regulations, that's not a possibility.
Well, if you can find a way across Sagamore Parkway, God bless you.
Okay, so Doug, what exactly are you looking for today from the committee here?
Well, basically, what we wanted to do was to introduce the topic of both funds to the committee. We will be doing this next week at the Technical Transportation Committee, and we actually have 2 handouts, one for each fund. And at that time, we will be discussing, of course, well, first off, rolling out the information to those committee members, and then ask if they would be interested in pursuing this. Of course, if there is an interest in pursuing this from this committee, it would be great to give us the green light so we could actually start, reaching out to the different agencies and then start thinking, what can we do? How can we use these funds for what projects? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that sounds fine to me, to give you authorization to continue down this path and working with the Technical Transportation Committee and the various other staff members from your staff and our staff. So that sounds reasonable to me. Is there anybody that has any objections to that? I don't hear any. So is that good enough for you, Doug, or do you want something more formal?
I think that's good enough, because I think everybody is on board with this and definitely would like to take advantage of these new funds. And especially for the first round, if we can get something in and get something in the door, that would probably be beneficial to our community.
Okay. All right. Well, you have authorization then to move forward, and we'll look forward to hearing back from you, to seeing how that's going, if there's anything else that you need from us.
Great, thank you.
All right, the next item on the same category is federal funding obligation. And Doug's the home run hitter today. He's still up.
I've already alluded to this earlier in our discussion with the TIP amendment, and that we have the small amount, the $316 and change that we needed to obligate. And with your action here earlier, we will be then sending this in, and then shortly, when it is approved through the STIP, I suspect we will then submit a FEMAS request to actually obligate those funds. So I have a feeling we will be doing this before the next committee meeting, which will then obligate all of our fiscal year 2022 funds.
Okay. Sounds like that's just informational for us at this time. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Doug on that? All right, the next and final item on the agenda is the 18-month letting list.
Yeah, if you had a chance to look at the list overall, there are very few changes. Looking at the projects, especially through April of next year, there are no changes. Two of the projects coming up, I'd like to point out. One, project number 4, the Yeager Road project, that is still on target for an October bid letting. And then project number 9, that is the McCutcheon pedestrian safety project, which is on a November bid letting. We have 4 new projects that are showing up in this on the first page. Project 17 and Project 20. Project 17 is a district-wide ITS project. We do not have any specific details on that yet to pass along. And then Project 20 is a small structure replacement project on Special 52. You can see the location. It is east of the 52, US 231, and Sagamore Parkway intersection. On the second page, we have Project 21, and this is a project in the Indiana's Veterans Home. And then following that, another local project, Phase 1 of Morehouse Road. So on this list, we now have 3 local projects going to construction. But otherwise, all the other projects that are on the list previously that have been shown are still on track to be on that specific letting date. Any comments or questions?
All right, any questions for Doug? Shane, do you have anything you'd like to add or any comments you have today?
No, I can't think of any. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, thank you, Doug, for that update. Is there anything under other business?
Yeah, I think just a quick update on the MTP. So we are still waiting to hear from NDOT and Federal Highway to kind of wrap up some of the issues we had with the initial document. I shared a little bit about the specifics of that at a previous meeting, so I'm not going to rehash that because I don't think that would be a good use of everyone's time. But we are still open to that, so we're just waiting to hear from those planning partners, and then once we hear something a little more definitive, we'll get into the amendment process.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Tim. We appreciate that update.
Tony, I got a question. It's probably more for Shane. State Road 225, that bridge thing, what's the progress on that?
So interesting you ask. So we're getting to the point where we're making a decision on whether or not we're going to be able to open it back up. So essentially what's going on is we can't keep the overweight vehicles off of it, and it's creating the stress cracks. So we're in the process of trying to decide whether or not we're going to open back up. We've got a rehab project that's scheduled for 24, so 2 years from now. That will be a full rehab where it's going to be single lane the way it is, but there'll be no more low weight restrictions on it. So right now, we're leaning towards not opening it back up until 2024 when we can get it rehabbed. We just simply can't keep the overloaded truck off of it, whether or not it's local. We've added cameras about 6-9 months ago and continually have the bridge overloaded. We contact the local people that we can see, local businesses, and quite frankly, they just keep coming. We've got Indiana State Police involved, and they were patrolling it, but then we noticed these last cracks. They had to shut it down. So, not great news that people want to hear, but unfortunately, when we can't stop the behavior, we don't want a more dangerous situation out there, you know.
Right. Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Shane. Anybody else? Anything else under other business? Okay, at this time, we'll move to citizen comment, and I will inquire if we have received any. If we have not, if we could start the timer, please.
Okay, so Mayor, I don't know if you can see the chat or not, but we have passed the minute and there haven't been any public comments.
Yep, thank you very, very much. Yes, just saw that. All right, well, with no public comment, I would entertain a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All right. We'll entertain a roll call vote to complete today. John Dennis.
Aye.
Dave Byers.
Aye.
Larry Leverance.
Aye.
Harry Brown. Peter Bunder.
Aye.
Cindy Murray.
Aye.
Shane Spears.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.
Hey, guys.
Thank you.